Article 8A is on national interest.
Yes.
And it states that the national interest shall be, driven by the national objectives and directives of state policy.
And two?
And Parliament shall prescribe a law, which it has never done.
Yeah, and we're doing it now.
And is this national interest? No. Because the question that we should ask, Chair, when you go under the... no, Honorable, let me respond and finish and
please,
give counsel. Yes. When you read Article 8, the full section, the national objectives and directives of state policy already provide for civic organizations, for example, provide for foreign policy principles. Under Article 32, it provides for a guide for everything. This law contradicts, by the way, foreign policy principles in the national objectives and directives of state policy.
But you know,
where it comes to
national interests also override foreign interests. Am I right?
Yes. And actually, one of the questions we have in the big memorandum is, can we mention our national interests if they are beyond what is in the Constitution, or if they've changed? And if you mention a national interest out of directives of state policy, you are amending the Constitution.
Yes, but if the two clash, foreign and national interests reign supreme.
No, Honorable, if the national interests do not clash with the national objectives and directives of state policy, there is no problem. But if the proposed national interest contravenes any provision of the Constitution, it is null and void.
No, the Constitution is national interest.
Yes. That's why we are saying when you read those objectives, there is a contradiction, and we have mentioned it in our details. The chair asked if a civil society organization received funds to disrupt the government, what should the government do? And I just want to demonstrate briefly, how do NGOs receive money? For example, if Center for Constitutional Governance signs an agreement, a funding agreement, with an entity, let's say Open Society, I report this agreement to the bank whose account I have mentioned that will receive money. I attach the budget and the activities and work plan to the bank. That's only when banks clear our money. If these funds were a list, the bank has an opportunity of about 2 weeks or a month before funds even come in to block that funding. Foreign remittances are cleared from the bank channels, including Bank of Uganda. We have the Financial Intelligence Authority. We have the bureau where we file returns every year.
Bireete,
and being
you cannot say one of my activities is to overthrow government. That you can never say.
No, Chair,
so how will banks know that this activity is what if you disguise?
Chair, I wanted to conclude that we are constantly supervised by the NGO Bureau.
Good.
The challenge we have is a non-functional NGO Bureau. And because since the rationalization, the Bureau does not exist. We just have an administrator who is a commissioner. There is no Bureau, and in your amendments, you said this administrator is not a member of the Bureau. Now the ministry is busy closing NGOs with no Bureau, and you are giving it another entity to close the economic sector.
The question.
Yes.
Answer the question.
So if NGO Bureau was functional, and they detect, we have security agencies up to the village. Village intelligence, VISO, RISO, PISO.
Sir, I can ask.
Let me conclude. When we go to the village to implement activities, we write to the DISO, we write to the GISO that we are here to do a BC, and they attend
that is a standard
meetings.
For all
NGOs.
Honorable Dul.
I was just asking because you had asked her.
Yes.
And I think in answering that question, because you are saying supposing someone, a person or an NGO receives money to overthrow government. So I wanted to ask her, are you aware of anyone in this country who has been charged for attempting to overthrow government? And under what provisions of the law has government been charging such persons?
Yes, I wanted to conclude actually that we have penal code and other laws in the country. If there is anybody attempting to overthrow government, whether they are from NGO, whether they are from the church, charge them with treason.
The Honorable Odul from UPC, thank you so much for your contribution.
And maybe
be
just
considerate to others you entered with.
Yes, Honorable Chair, just in two questions were asked, and I'm just going to tie them together so that I respond at once. But just to...
No. Your question.
All right. So the question was around if you have religious institutions or entities which are against government programs, say of education or of vaccination. And I'll just respond in this way. The key recommendation that we make, especially in relation to creating exemption for religious institutions, it should be that the exemptions should only be applicable for legitimate religious activity.
Legitimate.
And the key word there is legitimate.
Who determines the legitimacy?
Now, again, let me just complete the submission. Legitimate in the Ugandan context, we have a plethora of laws which define, for example, what is criminal and what is not criminal. If you are against vaccination, a government program, there is sufficient laws. The Public Health Act is one of them. If, for example, you are against the education policy, there is an Education Act. There are provisions of the Constitution.
That wasn't the question. The question was, how should we handle?
That's what I'm saying. That one of the recommendations we make as from our memoranda is that other than creating more laws to address certain issues, why don't you begin with implementing the existing laws? And I just want to, again, for the benefit of the committee, Honorable Chair, reference should be made to Article 43 of the Constitution, which says that in the enjoyment of any rights and freedoms prescribed in the chapter, no person shall prejudice the fundamental or other human rights and freedoms of others for the sake of public interest. And then what the Supreme Court in Charles Onyango Bo Andrew Mwenda versus Attorney General has defined as the three-part test to the limitations of fundamental human rights. So the case we are making here, as we are drafting the law, is that Article 29, which guarantees the freedom of worship. The freedom of worship is not an absolute right. So Article 43 creates the limitations.
That we know.
No,
that we clearly know.
Yes.
So just answer the question.
Yes.
In specific terms, and then we...
If I get him correctly,
yes.
I said there's nothing broken, there's nothing for fixing.
Yes.
The laws are there. Mm-hmm. Let's go and implement
That's
them.
it. So
that's exactly the case.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Honorable colleagues, it's been great. Let's allow the organizations I read to take leave and your other visitors who accompanied you. Let me clarify this. The people at the gate, the Parliament makes